Man, I haven't been in the mood to. Last week was aggravating. That's all. Just aggravating. We uh, we wrapped up some business that's been needed to be wrapped up. Not entirely satisfactory for me. I've still got a lingering taste of white bread and fecal matter in my mouth right now, but it had to be put aside for the moment. Because we got other things to take care of. So there was that. The sort of not entirely satisfactory conclusion of something that's been a problem here for the last 2 months. But at least we're not dealing with it right now. Then, of course, last week was the anniversary of the attacks in 2001. And the scheduled parade of remembrance and mourning that we get. It gets phonier and phonier every year. It's like the Kennedy assassination when I was a kid. I got so sick of hearing about that. You never forget where you were, and then they'd start having specials. Where were you? And everybody would say, "Well, I never forgot where I was that day," or whatever. Oh, and I think there's like a subculture of like grief displays for the event. Like I passed this fellow on a motorcycle, but he was dragging an American flag behind him. It was twice the size of him in that bike. I mean, it easily could have gotten caught in the side mirror of a semi. You know what I mean? Hey, you got to go out, right? You ain't got no choice. And what better way to go out than wrapped in Old Glory? Skidding across the pavement at 75 miles an hour on September 11th. USA, USA. Oh, people love that shit, man. There was a woman that was interviewed right after John Kennedy Jr. crashed his plane, right? She's down with her kids at his house, and there's this mound of teddy bears and flowers that had amassed, and she's being interviewed about it. And she says, well, I had to bring my kids down here because nothing of any significance ever happened in my life, and I want them to be a part of history. What the bleeding is she talking about? I mean, by my calculation, she had to have at least been sentient when the Berlin Wall fell, for instance. But these baby boomers have hammered the Kennedy assassination into everybody's psyche so deeply that it takes a certain amount of willpower not to see it as the sort of climax of human history. Of course, I reckon, people my age, a little younger, are probably going to do the same thing with these attacks that we have delicately called 9/11. So. It's an odd thing too because it brings out all sorts of stuff in people, and you begin to find that most of the people who talk about politics, they're just what you have is liberals in this country and anti-liberals. You don't have any anti-statists. I mean, because when it comes to the police or the military, I mean, there's just no limit on what some of these people want them to be able to do. They don't want any limit on state power in that regard, And nationalists, oh God, the worst kind for what nation? I mean, you'll hear people talk about the nation. What nation? Somebody out there who gives a crap. Look up the definition of nation and try to apply it to the borders of this country. Dixie fits the definition perfectly. And since we're talking about that, the pending vote for Scottish independence has not gone unremarked on in the land of the free. Mostly they're against it. It's just, it goes against every instinct the eagle eye apple pie American has. You don't get smaller. Again, you find that there aren't very many genuine conservatives. Now look, I have no opinion about what Scotland should do. I've never even been in Scotland. It's a great regret to me. I have no opinion whatsoever. That is completely y'all's business. All right. But of course, I have sympathy with any secession or independence movement. And you would think that most conservatives who believe in self-determinism and maximizing individual liberty would also have at least a sort of spiritual connection with any movement. Well, no. Again, we find that they're just anti-liberal. They're not anti-state. A couple of weeks ago, the British Embassy or whatever celebrated the 200th anniversary of burning down Washington, D.C. Now, any genuine conservative, any liberty-loving individual would want a piece of that cake, right? Oh, no. Oh, I can't believe they insult the symbols of America. All these people do is complain about Washington, D.C. all day. But anyway, the discussions about it have been very interesting. There's been comparisons to Rhodesia. Scotland needs to be very careful that they don't become the next Rhodesia. Okay? Because Rhodesia, for independence for Rhodesia didn't work out very well. And Scotland better take a look at that. And then, this is my favorite because I've heard it many, many times. I talked with Moody about this on the cuff. This is one of the things that is ingrained into the USA American. That if Lincoln had not been successful in invading and conquering the South, then the whole world would be run by Nazis right now. This is an article of faith with certain of these apple pie types. The first time you hear it, you think, well, okay, this is, but then you hear it again and again, and you're like, there's a group of people out there that actually believe this. It is an unshakable truth that the United States saved Britain and Europe from the Nazis. You cannot tell one of these eagle eyes any different. USA, okay? We're the reason, according to these people, you're not speaking German right now. Wherever you are. Unless you're in Germany. And that, coupled with the continual effort to justify what was done down here, has created this particular argument. There's even some people who go so far as to say the Confederacy, because they would have aligned itself with Nazi Germany, which is insane. If you understand anything about Confederate ideology, it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Never mind that we've still got a bone to pick with all these Germans that were over here during the war that showed up, all the trash from 48. But it's just insane. So anyway, good luck, Scotland, whatever you do. You own a farm in Scotland, maybe you'll try to get hold of some ammunition. I don't know. But of course, there is relief from that nonsense this time of year. Sweet salvation comes every Saturday. You can forget about all that. Put it behind you. There's more important things to worry about. Now, I can tell you where I was when an event occurred on November 22nd, 1997. And I'll never forget where I was or what I was doing at the time. Where were you? Well, I'll tell you where I was. I was in the married quarters at Patrick Henry Village, right outside of Heidelberg. And it was my last night in Germany. And I spent it with a friend of mine, watching Florida and Florida State play. There's a few things you have to understand. I was born in Tallahassee. And Tallahassee is the home of Florida State University. The Seminoles. And I grew up with them. I grew up with their fans. The worst bunch of folks you'll ever meet. I can't stand them. I hate them with a bleeding passion. Let's just put it that way. Purple. The other thing you need to understand is that the year before, the Gators had beat FSU for the national championship. They played for the national championship, and the Gators beat the crap out of them. Okay? But the following year was a great disappointment. First, the Gators lost at LSU. Then they lost at Georgia. Unspeakable. For the first time in like 10 years, they lost to Georgia. They just were not the unstoppable force that they had been the year before. And into town comes FSU, ranked number 1, undefeated. Now all they have to do is get by a weakened Gator squad, and they're on to the national championship. They can get revenge for the year before. They can at least try to cancel it out. What followed was one of the greatest events in human history. You might say the climax of human history. Where were you on November 22nd, 1997? Because I was breakdancing on my buddy's floor. And I'll never forget it.